Welcome to the 12 Beers of Christmas podcast, and in what's become an annual event for me, I've finally decided to commit this to the airwaves. Yes, this year the 12 Beers of Christmas is coming to you in audio format, very much inspired by Myles Lambert at the North East Sipping Forecast and his 24 in 24 podcasts that he did. I thought I'd finally give these daily reviews a go and let you listen to me waffling on about beer for a bit. So a little bit of background about the 12 Beers of Christmas. It's 5 years old this year, and it basically started off as something I just used to do when I finished work for the year and until I went back in January, and I would just drink beers that I had either bought specifically for the occasion or that I'd been saving in my cellar. And as the years have gone on, it's become more about buying beers literally for this occasion and storing them in the cellar. So, as I say, I've got a great lineup of beers this year. Really looking forward to getting into them and really looking forward to sharing my thoughts with you all. So, without further ado, let's crack on and get into the 12 Beers of Christmas. On the first beer of Christmas, my true love gave to me. Shepherd Neame Christmas Ale. So this is beer number 1 in my 12 Beers of Christmas lineup, and I am joined by a familiar voice for this one. My usual co-host.
Hello, Steve.
Hopinions. Hi, Martin. How you doing?
Not too bad, mate. It's been ages.
It has been ages. So this is my first beer in my 12 Beers of Christmas this year.
I'm sharing beer number 1.
You are indeed.
Every time I say beer number 1, I'm thinking of Rhythm and Brews now when they go beer number 1.
Oh. with a woman's voice.
Like you're an airport or something.
Yes, brilliant. So this is Shepherd Neame Christmas Ale. This is a bottle from last year. So this is 2016 edition, which was sent to me by Shepherd Neame last year. It's a beer I've had a few times, and I thought...
so it is an annual release?
It's an annual release. It's the same recipe every year, and it's been that way for about the last 6 years or so.
Okay, so they don't change it?
They don't change it. I don't even think it's bottle conditioned, so I'm not really sure what I was hoping for
by leaving it for a year.
So let's tuck in.
Let's find out.
I'm going to go cheers. It's typically Shep's on the nose. let's be honest.
Yeah, but it's got like a sweet aroma to it.
It's almost got the aroma of a very sweet barley wine.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Quite light.
Yeah.
It hasn't got that. People who know Shepherd Neame, the Shep's twang, that's not so evident, I don't think, in the flavour. I think at the back end when it's dry.
Yeah, it's very sweet though, isn't it? There's like loads of like raisin and fruitcake. It has actually almost become like a barley wine.
Yeah, I mean this is 7%. Like you say, it doesn't appear to be sort of any sort of bottle aging going on. It's actually very dry at the end.
It is, yeah.
But it's got, I don't know, it's almost like that sort of Christmas cake kind of flavour to it, but quite light, quite drinkable actually.
It is, and it's not. This is the thing that I've always actually quite enjoyed with the Shepherd Neame Christmas Ale, is that
they haven't
just thrown Christmas.
They haven't just thrown in all the spices from the back of the cupboard into it. No, it doesn't feel like they've done any of that. I wonder what they. Because you've had a few other Shepherd Neame, some of their specials every now and again, haven't you?
Yes.
This feels like they could have done a bigger version.
I think they probably could do a bigger version of it. I think they probably question whether there's a market for it though. There might be against the more...
As a limited run, but I reckon the way this feels at the moment, and you say it's a year old as well, it feels like with a bit more alcohol in and a bit more body, then this would... actually just bring it up another couple of notches as well.
Mind you, at 7%, you're not going to want to rush this, are you?
No, but I think you could, because it hasn't got that. It's not like say Fuller's Vintage Ale. It hasn't got that thickness.
No, it is very light. I mean, let's see what the bottle says. So the bottle says a glowing amber winter ale with a heady fruity nose. Crystallised winter fruits combined with festive spicy hops on a platform of smooth warming alcohol notes, leaving a refreshing, cleansing hop finish.
I think they've got all of that right. Unfortunately, the bit about spicy, isn't there?
It's not, and I wonder whether that. I do wonder whether that's eased off over the year, or even, as I say, I've never really got a lot of spices from it in the past when I've tried it anyway.
I can sort of, because I've never really tried doing it myself. I've done mulled cider at home, and I've done mulled red wine, which I love doing at home because you can just make it the way you want it to be without it being so cinnamon, for want of another phrase. This feels like you could mull it.
I think so, and I did see the Owl Lady had suggested she was going to mull a beer for Christmas, and I think Marsden's pointed her in the direction of a recipe that they use.
Okay, this feels like you could.
Yep.
This kind of beer, because it's got the good baseline for it, it feels like you could do it.
I absolutely agree. Now, a little bit of background on the Shepherd Neame Christmas Ale. So they've been brewing it since the early 70s in the bottle, and for even longer in cask. However, I did ask them if they knew how long, and they said there's no one there that can quite remember back that far.
I thought you were going to say, could they send a cask?
Yeah. Available in cask during December and in bottles during December as well. And like I say, for the last 6 years, it's been this recipe in this style bottle.
Trying it on cask. I think
it'd just bring an extra bit of depth to it.
Yeah, it would do. I mean, especially if it's exactly the same recipe, so it's still 7%. That extra bit of body from the cask, and whatever you might think about chefs do know how to serve their cask and look after their cask.
Yes.
Even if it's not to everyone's palate, that would be nice to try. Lunchtime beer. Maybe I should go back to the old Dr. Butler's Head.
7%.
I'll have 2 of those, please.
Yeah, you're only going to take one of those, aren't you? Anyway, let's crack on and enjoy the rest of this. Cheers.
On the second beer Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Elusive Brewing with Wild Weather Ales, Hermann Toothrot. So this is a Rum and Raisin American Strong Ale. It's well over a year old as well, and it's not the first time I've had it, which is why I managed to get hold of a second bottle and squirrel it away for this year's 12 Beers of Christmas. So I want to get into this because I've just poured it out of the bottle and it's looking really inviting. So cheers. Oh, it's lovely. It's got a real sharp, bitter, boozy finish to it. It's fairly soft around the edges. I think a lot of the original flavourings in there have died off over the year or so that I've been cellaring this bottle. Now, when I had it last time, it was December 2016. And it must have been pre-Essex Bottle Share because it was at the Ale House in Chelmsford. And I simply said it was well-balanced rum and raisin ice cream feel and gave it 4 stars. Now, it is a rum and raisin strong ale. And it has been made using raisins that were soaked in rum before they were put into the brew to impart their flavours. So, and what you've got here is essentially at 7.6%, something that's probably beginning to border on a barley wine, I'd suggest. But at the time, I remember asking Andy from Elusive Brewing if he thought the bottle would age well and hold for a bit, and he did say he thought the hops would die off over time and the other flavours would come through. And from what I can remember, it certainly didn't feel as boozy or strong as this, but it's an incredible beer. I mean, it's really tasty. I'm just going to dive in for another go at it. Oh yeah, it's really soft on the finish. It's almost got a bit of a caramel feel to it as well. Hints of the sweetness from the raisin and the rum maybe, but not overpowering. Really well balanced. Now, in terms of the name on this one, as people will know, as fans of Andy's Elusive Brewing will know, most of his beers and artwork are after Andy's 8-bit gaming obsession from his youth. And Hermann Toothrop was a character that appeared in a famous game called Monkey Island. He started off his life as a character called Horatio Talk Media Marley, and he was a famous captain and adventurer who fell victim to the machinations of the evil pirate LeChuck during the search for the legendary treasure of Big Whoop. He later became known as Hermann Toothrop after he lost his memory in an unfortunate accident, and he then lived as the life of a hermit for several years on Monkey Island. So there you go, pub quiz fact if ever you've wanted one. I'm going to tuck into the rest of this beer. It's one that I do hope we see again from Elusive, because you're certainly not going to be able to track this one down again. Cheers.
On the third
Beer.
Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Atom Neutron Star. This is a Imperial Stout with coffee and vanilla, 12.6%, brewed last year, and I'm not reviewing this one alone this evening. I am joined by the motliest crew you could have ever assembled before Christmas. As we go around the table, immediately to my left, I've got Phil. Welcome, Phil.
Hello, Steve.
Find you on Twitter, mate.
I'm at the Great Cubio.
Okay, and next on my list is a man that needs very little introduction. He's on my list as Mike, but Mike, who are you on Twitter?
Evening, Steve. Evening, lads. I'm Sparky, right? Known for pointing at things and sort of strange videos today as well, apparently.
And general Twitter merriment.
Well, yes, where I can.
I'm then looking at Keith. Keith, welcome.
Hello, I am the littlest homebrew on Twitter.
Keith, and then finally we've got Brian.
Yeah, hi, Steve. I'm either as Legging Boat or Guzzler.
Just want to say a big thank you, guys, to giving up your time to review this beer with me. When we first put the 12 beers of Christmas together, it was great to see that a lot of us had the same beers. And when I first came up with the idea of actually podcasting this year, I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could actually get some people reviewing the same beer at the same time? So that's what we've got here this evening. So we are drinking, as I said at the outset, Atom's Neutron Star. It is last year's release. It's a bit of a beast of a beer. I'm guessing that we've all already decanted it into our glasses because it was wax sealed as well. So cheers, guys. Let's get into this and then let's have a bit of a tasting session.
Yep. Cheers all.
Yeah. Cheers, everyone. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Okay. Anybody want to kick off with any initial thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by the carbonation.
Now, this was an issue, wasn't it?
Yeah, a massive problem last year when it was first released, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how mine's looking and tasting.
So have you got some life in yours then? Because yeah. I've got to say, mine is as flat as a
cotton-headed ninny muggins.
No, I really have got, and I'm flabbergasted because I've seen lots of reviews, even recently, saying it, as you say, flat as a
cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Mine has got a semi-decent head on it. I'm pleasantly surprised because I wasn't expecting it. I was ready to rip into this.
Well, I've got no head here at all. Mine is flat as well.
Must admit, mine's completely flat too. Although I don't think it's any worse for that. It still tastes very nice.
It's really smooth, isn't it? I think maybe the lack of carbonation is aiding that smoothness a little bit because I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a massive boozy coffee hit off of it. That's the first thing I'm getting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I quite like low carb Imperial Stouts though. I don't really mind it if it's not too carb.
I think I like a little bit of life in them. I'd maybe like a little bit more than I've got in my glass tonight. So I think it would maybe lift it a little bit.
Yeah, I think I must have a rogue bottle because mine is really pleasant. I can't believe it because I've not seen anybody review last year's and say it had any sort of head on it, but mine has got a slight head on it.
You're not drinking Guinness, you, Brian?
No, no, I promise you, it's last year. I probably bought mine from the same place as Steve, Beer Central.
Yep, that's where mine came from. I think probably a lot of us got last year's bottle from there.
Yeah, and that's the reason I didn't drink it last year because loads of people were saying it was flat as a
cotton-headed ninny muggins.
But yeah, mine is. I am chuffed to bits with how mine is, to be honest.
Completely lifeless. I tried pouring it from at least about 2 foot, but that did absolutely nothing for it. But yeah, as you say, it doesn't really affect the aroma at all. You just get masses of roasted coffee out of it and vanilla.
Is there not a worry with it being this easy because of the lack of carbonation at 12.6%? This could be very dangerous, couldn't it?
Yeah, I'm sort of halfway through mine already, and it's like you say, it is easy to drink. It's very pleasant.
There is a bit of booziness to it, but it's nowhere near 12%.
No.
Yeah, you get the boozy warmth on the initial mouthfeel, and then just a little bit around the edges as it goes down. But yeah, it is a very big beer.
It's all coffee, isn't it? Coffee is sort of forefront.
Okay, so while we're enjoying this a little bit more, a little bit of pub quiz knowledge for everyone. Does anybody know what a Neutron Star is made of?
Well, coffee, chocolate.
No, so this is this is the actual scientific definition of a neutron star. So that basically an atom, as we know, and as if you go onto Atom Brewery's website, they talk about the science of brewing, and that's what they're all about. But an atom is the smallest constituent unit of ordinary matter that has the properties of a chemical element. Every solid, liquid, gas, and plasma is composed of neutral or ionized atoms. However, with neutron stars, the basic models for these objects imply that neutron stars are composed entirely of neutrons, which are subatomic particles. Does this mean that neutrons can exist outside of an atom, and that a neutron star isn't comprised of an element that is recognizable on the periodic table? Okay, so let's get some final thoughts on this beer then before we wrap up for today. We'll go in reverse order this time. So Brian, some closing remarks on the beer?
I think it's a fantastic beer. Loads of coffee, dark chocolate and vanilla. I'm over the moon because I was expecting it to be flat as a
Cotton-headed ninny muggins.
so I'm well chuffed.
Excellent. Keith, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a great beer. Like a combination, I don't know, maybe makes it a bit sort of oily and cloying with the sweetness. But yeah, no, it absolutely doesn't feel 12.6%, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of it. Sparky, any final thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I had one. I bought two, and I drank one sort of fresh last year. I thought it was a bit thin. I was all the fuss about it. I was a bit underwhelmed, but it certainly improved, to my memory, over last year. So yeah, very nice beer.
And you've managed to pick up a bottle again of this year's one, haven't you? So it'll be interesting when you drink that to see that the comparison, particularly in terms of life, I guess, as to whether there's any more life in it.
Yeah. Probably leave that till next year's 12 beers.
Phil, finally, and any final thoughts from you, mate?
Like the coffee. Glad it's more coffee than vanilla. Echo what other people have said, that it doesn't drink 12.6 at all. I think the lack of carb, I think a little bit of carb would help it, but I don't think it becomes a poor beer by having no carb. Definitely a good beer for 12 beers of Christmas.
Excellent. Well, it's nice to get some other voices on this rather than just mine, and some other thoughts on a beer for this evening. I shall let you guys get back to your evening's entertainment. I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and just say cheers.
Cheers, Steve.
On the 4th
Beer.
of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Cromarty Anniversary Ale 5. This is a Highland Whiskey Barrel Imperial Stout, coming in at around, bang on 12%. It's the 5th anniversary ale of the brewery. It's an Imperial Stout that's been aged in port pipe barrels, once used for special Highland whiskey, packaged in 500ml bottles with a wax-sealed top. I've got to say the wax wasn't too difficult to get through, quite an easy opener in terms of wax sealing. Straight into the glass. On the nose, there's just, you get the whiskey straight away. You get the warmth coming off of it. You get a little bit of smoke, a little bit of peat in there, and lots of dark berries as well. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this one. So cheers. Oh God, it's smooth. It's smooth as anything. It's really rich. There's a rich chocolate feel to it. Those dark fruits are just coming through. There's hints of a roasted bitterness on the finish, and rounded off with just the slightest hint of warmth. Not overpoweringly boozy. I think you could you could easily drink this without knowing it was 12%, and that's quite worrying, actually, because it is a big 500ml bottle as well. And after supping this without really realising the ABV, you're going to know about it. I'll tell you that for sure. So, a little bit of background on Cromarty. It's a family business consisting of Craig, Chap, and Jenny Middleton. Craig is the brewer who studied the science of brewing at Heriot-Watt. And has worked in various breweries to gain valuable experience. And during that time, he decided he wanted to get his own beers to market. So in spring 2011, he actually took the step of buying into his own brewery. And the first casks of their beer started rolling out on the 19th of December 2011. So just over 6 years to the day. Small-scale brewing has always been popular in Cromarty. So starting during the 17th century, when much of the grain grown on local farms would be malted for ale. In 1744, there were no fewer than 25 brewers operating in the area. The original brewery was established by George and Alexander Ross around 1790 and is situated close to a burn at the east extremity of Cromarty. The original brewery faced financial difficulties back in the early 1820s, and production came to an end eventually in 1850. So there's quite a steeped history in terms of the brewery name. I've got to say it's a brewery that I don't really see a lot of their beers, so I don't really get to try a lot of their beers. But when I saw this one pop up, probably about a year ago now, actually, on Beer Central, it was one that I actually definitely had to have in my box. I'm just going to dive back in just for another taste of it. Oh, it just remains just ridiculously drinkable. Carbonation is very, very light on it, although it is maintaining a beautifully off-white sort of beige head to it as it goes down the glass. There's just enough life in it to really lift all of the flavours and to really bring it all together into to this kind of this finale in your mouth that is just dark fruits and chocolate. Oh, it's just incredible. I can hardly describe how good it is. Now, what I thought I'd do tonight is just to have a little bit of a roundup of what some of the other folks are drinking as well on the 12 Beers of Christmas. So we've got Beer Geek at Beer Geek Blog. Day 4, drinking a Cascade Cranberry. So this has been barrel aged for 7 months with cranberries, hibiscus, orange peel and cinnamon. Loads of cranberry, nicely sour, lots of oak too. Not getting much hibiscus, which is probably for the best. The cinnamon is there, but very well balanced. Paul Willies at PS Willies. Day 4, drinking a Tall, smoke on the porter, fire in the rye. Chilly heat building up quite a bit and it's really quite warming. Kat Sewell, who's coming to the end of her 12 Beers of Christmas now, but once again a great supporter in Kat. She's on the Almasty Imperial Stout and it's delicious. Lots of forest fruits and maple syrup with a twang on the finish. Lovely viscosity to it too. Would pay attention on Twitter again, and that's in reaction to basically Kat was saying that she bought this because of the reaction it got on Twitter. Dave Neiston at UK Caps Fan. After missing last night, I'm catching up tonight with beers number 3 and 4 for my 12 Beers of Christmas. First up, he's drinking a quad. This is a fig and rye Belgian quad from Whiplash. Getting a lot of the rye and a nice thin mouthfeel, but big and boozy. Not a patch on a true Belgian quad though. And then we've got Rach at Look at Brew. That thing when you discover nearly a year later that you really should have bought more than one bottle. So she's drinking an Elderberry Stout by Guile 59 Brew, and it's heavenly. Jammy fruit, rich chocolate, smooth mouthfeel, and a little spice to finish. Perfection as far as Rach was concerned there. So great to see loads of people just getting involved in 12 Beers Christmas again. Everybody drinking their own beers, giving their own thoughts, and just really having a good time. So I'm going to sit back and chill out for the rest of the evening with the rest of this Cromarty anniversary ale. It is stunning. Not sure whether this is sort of an annual thing they do, but if they do a sixth version of this, I'd definitely say pick one up. Cheers.
On the 5th
Beer.
Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Weird Beard Sadako. This is a red wine barrel-aged Imperial Stout that I'm drinking tonight, and I'm really looking forward to this one. And once again, I'm not alone for this review. This time I'm joined by the Ale Lady. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Now, we are drinking slightly different variants of this beer, aren't we?
We are, yes. You were saying yours is a red wine barrel aged, whereas mine is just an Imperial Stout. Okay. Very simple.
And yours is a little bit older as well, isn't it?
Yeah, mine was bottled, was it about 6 months before yours, July 16.
I'm wondering if the one that you've got is the one that we did when we did the first opinions on films, because we did the basic version back then.
Ah, maybe it is.
That might be from around the same sort of time. Anyway, enough chatter about it, because I'm desperate to get into this beer.
Me too. It's late and it's Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Sure, got nice fizz.
Now, that makes me think even more that it is the same one that we had before, because ours was very, very lively and it took a long time to die down, yeah.
It is. It's not, it doesn't seem, it's not big bubbles. It's not like big, fizzy, vicious bubbles that are spiky. It looks like quite a smooth, dense head. It was just very lively. And it had a hefty fizz when I opened it as well, a nice, one of the very satisfying ones.
Yeah, it's good to see that it's held well in the bottle.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So what are you able to get into the flavours yet? Or
yeah, hang on a minute. Let me stop talking for a second. I might be able to take a sip.
Are you still working your way through the head?
I'll get there. Ronald's currently drying my legs off.
He likes a bit of Impy Stout, does he?
He prefers dark beers to pales.
And we should just say for the listeners at home that Ronald is your dog, isn't he?
He is. Sorry. Yes. I haven't got a gentleman caller licking my legs. Although I wouldn't complain if he was wearing a kilt. Right. Oh gosh, that's got a lot of sweetness in. Wow. You know, from the nose, I was expecting berries, but I'm not getting berries. I'm getting like almost syrupy honey. I can't remember what it was saying about it now, but it does. Gosh, and there's coffee in there. Ooh. And a hell of a mouthfeel as well. It's really coating my mouth. That's lovely.
I'm picking up a lot of the same from mine, and as I say, I can recall back to having that base version of it and thinking what an incredible beer it was, and then I saw a red wine barrel version go on sale, and I was like, I must have that, I must give that a go, and I've got to say I'm getting a lot of the same flavours, but then there's just a little bit more. There's a little bit more bitterness, a bit more dryness at the end of this one. Maybe not quite so sweet. It's got a very sweet nose, but on the finish, not quite so much.
Do you think is it adding tannins to it? Are you getting that sort of tea tannin sort of claret?
Absolutely,
drawing in of the mouth. Yeah. That would be interesting on the end of this, actually, because I mean, I like this. It's not overly sweet. It's not like, it's nothing as sweet as something, say, like Stay Puft or anything like that. It's more, you know, when you get a natural sweetener like honey or agave nectar or something like that versus white sugar. It's got that natural sweetness, so it's not sickly. It doesn't feel like my teeth are going furry or anything like that. It's just an absolutely delicious, luxurious flavour.
Yeah. Well, as you said at the outset, it does say on the label they've used honey and molasses in there, as well as 10 different malts, oats, and fresh coffee beans, which is a combination made in heaven for me.
That's amazing. Do you know, when we embarked on this, I thought, because we're starting so late, I'm never going to finish these 75 mils tonight. But do you know what? I might just do that.
Yeah, it's quite easy to get through, I think.
It's very moreish.
While we're just working through this, just a little bit of background on the beer from Weird Beard. So they first brewed this in July 2014, and it was their first Imperial Stout. And basically, it was only in the brewery for about 4 months. That they didn't want it hanging around too long, and they wanted to get it out into the public's hands. But ever since they've brewed subsequent batches, they've always held a little bit back and then put it in a range of different barrels. So in addition to the red wine barrel that I'm enjoying, there are also versions of this in Heaven Hill, Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, and tequila barrels. And I think I've also seen a rum barrel version as well. So they are expanding the range of Sadako every year. Also, interestingly, it also appears on their brew schedule at least 3 times a year. And when it is brewed, you know it's been brewed because they also put out a batch of dark Hoffler, which comes out of the same brew day. So just some little beer facts there, as I've been giving everybody throughout the 12 beers of Christmas.
They've done a tequila one. Wow, that would be interesting because I can't remember where I tried it. I think it was from the Leamington Beer Company. I tried a mezcal beer. You may know who it was. I honestly can't recall who it was. And that was actually surprisingly delicious. I didn't think it worked. I'm not a huge fan of tequila, but it was delicious. And that had as you were saying about the red wine, it's got that dryness cutting through it. The tequila, I wouldn't say it's dry, but it's got that distinctive flavour that would automatically cut through any sweetness that's there. So that would be fascinating.
Yeah, I think I've maybe only had a tequila barrel-aged beer maybe once or twice. And because tequila's a big flavour on its own, isn't it? And I guess it has to be treated quite carefully so it doesn't become overpowering.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't like it, but it does, when you mix it with other things, it seems to come into its own, or it certainly adds something. Yeah. It's like cloves are horrible by themselves, but stick them in red wine and they are delicious.
So let's just get some final thoughts on the beer then. I mean, I've still got a massive glass full to go, which I'm going to enjoy over the rest of Christmas Eve. Also, Santa Claus is a very lucky man because he's getting a little glass of this pod for him tonight when he comes to mine.
Isn't he lucky?
Yes, so hopefully he'll be very grateful for that. What are your final thoughts on this?
Final thoughts on this are, I thought it was going to be, I was expecting good things, but it's remarkably easy to drink. It's frighteningly easy to drink, and I think that tomorrow, when I am doing my own Santa Claus bit, I might be a bit wobbly because I'm going to finish the whole bottle tonight. It's delicious.
Yeah, this isn't one that you can keep, is it? You're going to have to do this in one sitting. Just on the red wine version, I'm getting massive coffee bitter notes on the finish of it, and yeah, like you mentioned earlier, it's coat in the mouth. It's very thick. It's got kind of almost a bit of an oily feel to it, but then there are some of those tannins coming through from the red wine, and you are just getting that lovely kind of dark, bittersweet chocolate, dark fruits finish to it as well. It's just so well balanced. Just a real incredible beer. I'm really going to enjoy drinking the rest of this evening.
Thank you for having me, Steve. This has been absolutely delicious.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining in the fun. Have a very Merry Christmas.
And you, my lovely.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Truman's London Keeper. Happy Christmas. It's Christmas Day. And as you might be able to tell, I've been on the beer for the majority of the day. So we're going to try and keep this one quick tonight. Although this is quite an important beer, to be honest. This was a beer that featured in my first ever 12 Beers of Christmas back in 2013. I picked up 2 bottles back then, and this one's been aging for a bit. So we'll come on to what I thought about it back then and what I thought about it today shortly. A little bit of background on the beer. So this is an 1880 double export stout, coming in at 8%. Only 2,000 bottles of this were produced. Each 750ml bottle has been hand signed and finished in ivory wax. It will improve and develop in the bottle for up to a decade and provide a lasting reminder of the opening of the new brewery and the start of a great chapter in Truman's history. So this was the first Truman's beer to be brewed in London for 24 years, and they wanted to make sure it was something special, a beer that linked the old brewery to the new and showcased the quality of the ale that they could produce. After hours looking through the Guile books at the London Metropolitan Archive, they came up with Truman's London Keeper, which was based on the recipe for the double export stout. It was intriguing for them because it was brewed back then with American hops. So despite their modern popularity, American hops were only used in the 19th century when the UK hop harvest failed. How the times have changed, eh? Willamette and Sterling were selected due to their similarity to older hop varieties and suitability for the style. So that's a little bit about the beer. Now, as I said, I featured this back in 2013, and back then there were a lot of people that were saying that the beer simply wasn't ready and it needed a few years just to balance out a little bit. So I picked up on that when I first reviewed it, and I didn't think it was all that great back in 2013, and I did think it needed a few years to develop. So it was the first time I'd ever cracked a wax seal bottle. And I wrote that very little aroma comes from the bottle. It pours really smooth with light carbonation and a small creamy white head. On the first taste, it's all light, smooth with a hint of roasted coffee, and there's a hint of blackberries in there. One of the easiest stouts I've ever drunk. In no way heavy going, really doesn't taste like a stout. As I'm closing in on the end of the bottle, I'm getting piney hops on the aroma, and new flavours were emerging. So I thought I'd put the other bottle away, and here we are, sort of 5 years down the line, and I've cracked the second bottle today. Now, the wax seal was still an absolute bastard to get off of the bottle, although I didn't go for the sensible route of just pulling the rope that was attached to it to break it. I tried to cut into it, and it took me about 5 minutes to cut into it. On the nose, there are initial deep roasted malt flavours, some hints of coffee in there, only real light hints though. It's a little bit thin, to be honest, for the 8% and the time that's had on it. I would have hoped for something a bit thicker, but there's still loads of life in this bottle. It's still really lively and still gives a good feel in the mouth. A little bit of chocolate and vanilla in there as well. And maybe there's a very light bit of finish as well to it that helps it go down. It certainly took me a while to get through it this evening, but that's to be expected, I suppose, for the size of the bottle. Now, I wasn't alone on drinking this beer today, so my co-host Martin had this beer today as well, so he and Michelle were drinking it today. Martin's thoughts were that it was smooth toffee licorice coming to mind, not quite as thick a mouthfeel as expected, but very easy to drink. A session feel, but 8% not sessionable. And looking forward to finishing the bottle off with Michelle. And then Michelle added to that beautiful mouthfeel of initial taste that is just wow, so smooth, and hints of toffee and caramel. Doesn't drink like an 8% and gets even better as it warms in the glass. So very, very similar views there. And I will just finish today's little recording by saying massive congrats to Martin and Michelle, who Martin popped the question this morning, and Michelle said yes, so I couldn't be happier for the pair of them, and I do wish them the very best for the future. So I hope everyone's had a great Christmas day. Cheers.
On the 7th of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Cloudwater collaboration with Tool, Christmas Cake Imperial Stout. Now, this was the release from last year, so this is the standard version. 11.8% beer in a big 750ml bottle. I'm going to dive straight into this one. I mean, straight away on the nose, it's all the Christmas cake in a liquid format in a glass. There's a boozy edge to it, and there's almost a little bit of the just a little bit of the marzipan and the icing in there as well. So I'm going to give this a little go. Okay, what I'm going to say is, it's velvety smooth. It really is easy to drink. There's the carbonation is soft, but it's enough to lift all of the flavours. There's a slight bitterness on the finish, but it's not overpowering. But it is full of festive spices. So you've got nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves in there. You may be picking up some of the raisins and sultanas, some of the dried fruit that would have gone into that as well. Which I've got to say, sadly, I don't like that. I mean, I love Christmas cake. I really do. And as far as does this do what it says on the label? Absolutely, completely and utterly. It is a Christmas cake Imperial Stout. But it's maybe just a little bit heavy on the spices for me. And I don't know whether maybe giving it a little bit longer in the cellar would have helped it out a bit or not. I suppose we'll never know. Although I have ordered a bottle of the barrel-aged version of this, so I might give that one a couple of years before it appears in my 12 beers of Christmas. So tonight, Boxing Day, let's just have a little bit of a roundup, see what other people are drinking today. So we've got Garth C at Garth CC68 is on the Even More Cocoa Jesus from Evil Twin. And he says from the more is more school of brewing, very little subtlety involved, heavy duty impy flavours and a chunk of coconut. Don't get so much of the maple possibly. Overall, it's hard not to like. We've got Joe at Fatal Glass, who is on the Mills Brewing and Oliver's Cider amazing Foxpick, and his New Year's resolution is to track down their latest collab. Joe's also been writing daily blogs for the 12 Beers of Christmas. Make sure you check those out at the Fatal Glass of Beer.blogspot.co.uk. Will also be in the show notes, but make sure you give Joe's reviews a read. Someone else who's been blogging on a daily basis is Paul Willis at PS Willis, and today he's been drinking Jester King beer, Das Wunderkind, and you can check out his reviews on Abbey de Southwick. Again, link in the show notes if you want to have a read of what Paul's been saying. Dracuba at Dracuba is on the Weird Beard Rye Smile, which he says is caramel and toffee with an earthy, slightly spicy finish. And James at Gammon Baron, also enjoying the Cloudwater Christmas Imperial Cake Stout today. And then finally Rach at Look at Brew. She's on to a strong barley wine today. It's gone bad though, full of Marmite character. It should be robust enough to carry it, but I think the sink might be finishing it for me, to be honest. We never like it when that happens with a beer, but she's powering through. So yeah, again, just really want to say, everybody that's getting involved in the 12 Beers of Christmas, you're really making it what it is this year, and actually it's making me want to come back and do these daily reviews. So I'm just going to give the Christmas Cake and Imperial Stout a final go. Yeah, again, you can't fault this beer. All the flavours are in there. It's big and bold. It's got a lovely, warming, boozy finish. But just for me, I could drink it, but I don't think I'm ever going to get to grips with those flavours being in a beer. Great beer, though. Like I say, can't fault it. Just really not for my palate. So, cheers. Beer. Stewart Brewing Elysium 1. Now this brings to the end a bit of a 3-year love affair with this series of beers. 3 of them were released back in 2015, all under the heading of the Elysium series, 1, 2 and 3. Number 1, the one I'm going to be drinking this evening, was aged in bourbon barrels. Number 2 was aged in straight up Speyside malt whiskey casks, and number 3 was aged in Speyside sherry barrels, and then mixed with the Scotch malt whiskey barrels. So I've had them over the last couple of years. Really enjoyable little beers. Beautiful looking bottle, wax seal, nice little label on a string. Really look the piece. I'm looking forward to getting into this one, so I'm going to dive into this one, then I'm going to have a little look back at the previous year's drinks. Cheers. Oh, wow. There's hardly any carbonation in there. There's a little bit just in the background, but it's very, very light. Not sure whether that's because it's died off over the couple of years or not. It tastes. It literally tastes like bourbon and Coke, though. There's hardly any bitterness or warmth on the finish. There's no big roasted notes. It's just a really soft finish. Really kind of tickles around the tongue. On the nose, there's hints of Coke in there as well. There's a little bit like there's a strange aroma in there that I can't quite pick up, like stale wood almost. It's a little off-putting. I've got to say, the aroma. Okay, so let's just look back over the last couple of years of this then. So like I say, the 3 of them were released together in 2015. I did the 2 in 2015, which was the Speyside Malt Edition, and then I thought of that one, dark fruits, vanilla, hints of chocolate. Gives way to a full-bodied finish with dark bitter chocolate. 3, which I did last year, benefits from. I thought it benefited from the flavours of both of the barrels. Had some dark fruits in there again, a little bit of wine and a hint of coffee in last year's one. And like I say, this year's one maybe not quite living up to the standards of the previous 2 years. But I felt as though that out of the three, this would be the one that aged the better. So let's have a little bit of background on Stewart Brewing. So they were founded in 2004 by Steve and Joe Stewart, and it's Edinburgh's local independent brewery. They employ 25 employees who work across a range of departments from retail to production. They began with a lineup of 3 cask ales and have obviously extended to keg and cask beers and beers in bottles as well. I've got to say, I don't really see or get to drink a lot of Stewart Brewing, but I am glad I bought these because it's enabled me to kind of feature them over the last 3 years. I'm just going to have another go on this, see if I can get anything different from in there. No, it's still just coming across like bourbon and coke. No, like I say, which is a little bit dangerous because it's 11.5%. It's a big old beer, but there's really no warmth or bitterness or big roasted notes at the finish. It's going to be really easy to drink, which I think maybe I was hoping for a little bit more of a challenge, a little bit thicker, that sort of thing. Quick roundup of today's other beers that are being drunk by people across the 12 beers of Christmas. So we've got Michelle at Ginger Daniels, who's on the Thornbridge Days of Creation. Delicious sour with a sharp bite and raspberries in the taste. Still as delicious as before. We've also got Rach at Look At Brew, who is on the Fuller's 2006 Impy Stout, and that's just the ticket for her tonight, she goes on to say. Garth C at Garth CC68 is on the Fuller's Vintage 2015. And then we've got what else have we got here? So we've got the Littlest Homebrew at Littlest Homebrew. Time to wring out the cheese as he settles down in front of the Lego Batman movie to drink the brewery's Aero Sour in the Rye. So again, a lot of great beers being drunk across the 12 beers of Christmas again today. We are closing into the final third of this year's run, and I'm looking forward to enjoying my last 4 beers or so with you. So on that note, I'm going to say cheers.
On the night
Beer.
of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Brouwerij de Abt van Sint-Sixtus, Westvleteren Ad 12. So that's one for pronunciation fans there that love how we pronounce Belgian styles and Belgian breweries. So yeah, basically drinking the iconic Westie 12. And once again, I'm not alone. I'm joined this evening by Joe from At the Fatal Glass. Hi Joe, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, good to be here.
Thanks for joining me for this review. I think we're just going to dive straight into the beer and give our thoughts on it.
Yep.
So I've got to say up front, I'm currently struggling with any aromas because I'm fighting a bit of a cold, but I am getting some decent flavours off of that. So I think I'll let you lead with any aromas that you were picking up on it.
Yeah, I have to say I didn't get a really strong aroma from it. It smells, if anything, my bottle smells a little bit musty. It doesn't actually smell that nice. It's a couple of years old, this bottle. But yeah, the flavour is pretty intense straight away.
Yeah.
I thought I'm a little ahead of you here because I opened it just before we started. But I thought on the first sip, it was really boozy. I've had, after a couple more sips, that sort of dying off, it's got a sort of pleasant background warmth to it. It's a bit overwhelming at first, but that's sort of dying off now. And there's a lot of kind of dried fruit and cola and kind of caramel, a bit sweet, but a little bit bitter on the back end as well. I think I'm really enjoying it.
I've got to say, I can agree with you on most of those flavours. I'm maybe picking up a little bit of bitter dark chocolate in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in the finish.
I think we're quite close, aren't we, in terms of our batches of the bottles here? Because mine's got a best before date, I think it is, of the 18th of December 2017.
Okay, yeah. So yours a little bit older than mine then, I think. So my best before is the 26th of March 18.
Okay,
and I think they put 3 years on it.
So fairly close then in terms
a few months
of
in it.
yeah. Now, as I said at the outset, this beer does indeed have legendary status, as it is. I think it's still acknowledged as maybe not the best beer in the world, but certainly one of the best beers in the world. It's been brewed for many years in the monastery in Belgium, and until 1992, it was being brewed by the nearby St Bernard, who used to use the name Sint-Sixtusabdij for it. However, there was a bit of a falling out between the two breweries, and ended up with neither of them being able to use that name and having to change the beer. Now, there are some suggestions that the Sint-Sixtusabdij beer is now actually a better beer than this one. Do you have any thoughts on that, Joe?
Is that the one that's now St Bernardus 12?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I have had that before. I don't remember it that well, to be honest. I'm sure it was really nice, but I haven't had it recently enough to compare them. St Bernardus, in general, their whole range is very, very good. So even if it's not a sort of direct comparison, I'm sure it's a great beer.
Yeah, and of course, this beer is quite tough to get hold of commercially, because you're not supposed to be able to buy it anywhere other than the brewery, are you? But people do find ways and means of getting their hands on this particular beer.
Yeah. Where did you get yours from?
I got mine from an online store. that it popped
you're not
up.
going to say.
No, well, no, maybe not, just in case. In case I end up going back to them. But it was literally maybe 3 Christmases ago that this popped up on their store, and I was like, in fact, all 3 of them popped up, the 6, the 8, and the 12, and I bought them all at the time, because I was like, obviously they're so revered and held in such a status that I actually wanted to give them a go. And I think I made the decision to do this one this year because I had seen a lot of people talking about sweet spots and that sort of thing, and if you let it get too old, it maybe loses a lot of the characteristics.
Yeah, I've seen similar things. I think oddly enough, it seems to sort of lose body over the years. So if the real sort of vintage bottles that people hold on to for a really long time can be a bit disappointing, apparently. Not that I'd have the willpower to leave it that long anyway.
To be fair, I don't think I would, because I've only had a couple of sips of it and I'm really enjoying it.
It's beautiful. Yeah,
it certainly doesn't drink anywhere near the 12% ABV that goes along with it. So I think it's one that is definitely should be a sipper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to, because we've had a couple of other folks drink this during the 12 Beers of Christmas, so I just wanted to pick up on their thoughts as well. So at the Littlest Homebrew, managed to get his hands on a crate of 24 of these early last year. This is the 8th he's opened, and it seems to change each time. It still pours with a decent head, nice carbonation to it. This time I got a hit of stewed dark fruits and a brandy-like booze. The taste is complex, to say the least, sweet, boozy forest fruits, dark chocolate, licorice. It's one you can find a new flavour with every mouthful and just want to savour. So some interesting views there, obviously picking up a few similar characteristics to what we have.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great review.
It's just really detailed, yeah. And then tonight, a friend of the show, Clayton at Clayfish, has opened up a bottle as well. It's been hanging around waiting for an occasion to drink it. Fuck the occasion. Let's dig into this dried fruit and caramel monster. Notes of honey interlaced with dark fruit and leather with a sting of alcohol in the tail. So I think that there's a lot of characteristics in there very similar to what we're picking up.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
So obviously there can't be, for it to be able to be that consistent across what would seem to be so many different batches. Obviously the monks know what they're doing when they're brewing this.
They must do, yeah.
So now, Joe, you've been blogging the 12 Beers of Christmas this year, and I've been enjoying reading your blogs every day. How do you approach it on kind of doing, I suppose it's almost a review every day, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, part of the reason that I wanted to do it, I did it last year as well, was because this is a time of year where I have got a bit of time on my hands. And I don't, in the past couple of years, I've been quite busy and I haven't blogged as much as I would like to. So while I've got a bit of time on my hands, I've kind of enjoyed the sort of discipline of doing the review every day. It doesn't have to be any set length or anything like that. It can just be whatever I want it to be. So yeah, it's not always easy. I mean, sitting down to write a review on Christmas Day is maybe, some people would say, a little bit sad, but I did it. There are times, obviously, where you might be out or something and I can't actually post it on the day, but I just kind of catch up with the next day or something. But for me, it's just a really good opportunity to get some stuff up on my blog, get writing again, blow the cobwebs off while I've got a bit of time in my hands, and clear the backlog a bit, clear some of those beers that I've been meaning to get round to, but just haven't really had the opportunity to. So it's great fun for that.
Great stuff. And where do people, I'm going to put a link in the show notes so people can click through, but where do people find your blog? Where do they follow you on Twitter?
So on Twitter, it's @FatalGlass, and the blog is called The Fatal Glass of Beer. So it's thefatalglassofbeer.blogspot.com.
And what's the background to the name there?
It's the name of an old W.C. Fields silent film, like a silent comedy.
Oh, okay.
Which sort of me and my friends used to joke about it. Basically, when I was at uni, we were supposed to watch this film, and in a kind of screening, and the DVD didn't work. So all we had was the name, The Fatal Glass of Beer. We never saw the film that went with it, and we sort of joke around guessing what that might be about, whether it's the pint that you order at last orders or whatever it was. What is the Fatal Glass of Beer? And then when I was thinking of names for the blog, I was thinking of kind of those sort of formative beers that get you really interested and get you suckered into sort of being a beer geek. I was thinking of that as being the Fatal Glass of Beer. So that's where it comes from. And if it's a rubbish name for a blog, because if you Google it, all you get is this W.C. Fields film. And my blog's on about the 10th page, so it was a mistake.
Oh well, you live and learn.
Yeah.
Let's get some final tasting notes then on the beer. What are you picking up?
Honestly, more of the same, but it's really sort of harmonious. It's like, for some really big flavors, it's actually quite easy drinking. And it's got such a sort of depth of flavor to it. It's not all big spiky booze. It's got so many kind of subtleties to it. That's what I'm really enjoying about it. I can see why it has got such a good reputation, because it is really, it just demands your attention, I think.
I completely agree. It's incredibly well balanced. The flavors all work, as you say, they all work together. I am picking up quite a nice, on the finish now, I'm getting more of the red fruits and the boozy red fruits as well. And it is leading to a nice warming finish. And
brandy was a good call. Can't remember the guy's name now, but yeah, definitely brandy. That sort of, that warm feeling in the chest.
Yes, yeah, very much so. I'm gutted I've only got the one bottle. I might have to go and start searching this out now and grabbing a few more bottles of this, I think.
Yeah, I'm lucky I've actually got another one. Not for tonight, although I am tempted.
Yeah, it could be one of those that you could end up sessioning without even really realising it.
Yeah, that'd be quite decadent, but it could happen.
Anyway, Joe, brilliant. Thanks for joining us on the review. Really
Steve.
appreciate it. And all the best for the new year, mate. Cheers.
You too. Thanks a lot.
On the 10th of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Thornbridge Hall Sour Brown, another beer that has appeared previously on the 12 Beers of Christmas. And once again, I'm pleased to say I'm not reviewing tonight's beer alone. I am joined by Myles from the North East Sipping Forecast. Myles, welcome.
Good evening, Steve. How are we doing?
I'm very well. I'm struggling, but I'm carrying on like the trooper I am. We're drinking the same beer this evening, aren't we? Because we were both lucky enough to get a bottle of this when we visited Thornbridge earlier on in the year.
Yes, it seems incredibly appropriate for us to be reviewing this beer together.
It does indeed, yeah. Shall we? I'm not sure about you because I've obviously had this before, and the last time I had it, it was a bit of a gusher. So I took a lot of care opening it tonight. I've had no gushing, but I have had a big head that has only just settled down on the glass.
Yes, same experience. I knew it was. I was expecting it to gush, so I suitably chilled it in nature's fridge all day, and I did get an initial quite a big head forming, but actually it's settled into looking like a lovely beer now. So
it is, yeah. Shall we talk about it no more and give it a taste? Cheers, pal.
Definitely. Cheers.
I've got to say that the first thing that strikes me is it isn't overly sour.
No, it feels quite rounded. There's certainly a sour edge to the cherries coming through, more of a raisin sultana flavour to it than anything else, I would suggest. I think the sourness has probably drawn that out more than anything else, in my opinion.
I think I agree with what you're saying there. You certainly pick up the probably the cherries is the dominant flavour. There's a bit of almost a bit of dark chocolate bitterness at the end of it as well.
Yeah.
And like I say, there's a hint of sourness in there, probably more so on the nose than on the flavour. I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the nose again, a lot of cherry. I'm not detecting any rhubarb, which is supposedly in there. But...
Yeah, well, I mean, description on the box is so it's a classic brown ale, lightly bittered with Styrian golden hops, matured in Burgundy wine casks with rhubarb, morello cherries, and raspberries. The beer pours a deep brown with aromas of red berries. So I certainly can't argue with the last part of that description.
Not at all. It's still I'm getting a lot of effervescence off it, and I think if I get a few more of those flavours coming through.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got like really, really tight little rounded bubbles all around the edge of the glass, almost like tiny frog spawn.
Yes, yeah, exactly that.
And it's still coming up from the bottom of the glass as well, so it's a proper lively beer. I mean, considering it's been in the bottle for what the date on the box is 2013, so it's been in the bottle for a good 4 years now as well.
It's meant to be a sign of having fruit in the beer. You get an awful lot of secondary fermentation in the bottle, which is probably what's driven that.
Yeah, I was that was on your most recent podcast, wasn't it? One of the fellas was talking about just throwing raspberries into a beer without washing them.
Yes, yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. So you're obviously well versed in that discussion already, mate. So just looking back, this is the second time I've done this as part of the 12 Beers of Christmas. So I did it in 2014, and ironically, did it on the 10th day back then as well. So there must be something about the number 10 in this beer. What I said about it back then was that the aroma is instant and all over the kitchen. It's that tartness that you come to expect from sour, but amplified by dark berries. It's like someone's poured a bag of Haribo Tangfastics into my glass and then doused them in beer. There's cherry up front and the finish is perfectly balanced bitterness laced with a hint of chocolate. So it looks like the flavours are still there. I then went on to say this beer is so refreshing and easy to drink. It's almost like drinking cherry Coke, and it just keeps getting better as it warms, as the red wine barrels that it's been aged in begin to shine through in the final flavours. So considering back in 2014, I hadn't really been into reviewing beer for that long. I'm actually quite happy with that review compared to how the beer tastes now.
I would say that's a pretty solid description of what we're getting now, to be honest with you. If anything,
changed much?
No, it's quite impressive.
Yeah. So as I said at the outset, we got this when we visited Thornbridge earlier on in the year, which again, just going back to your last podcast, you certainly cited as one of your highlights of the year. Now,
the day we spent at Thornbridge was like it was unbelievable. They bent over backwards for us. They couldn't have done. Also, Thornbridge is so fascinating as a setup.
Yeah.
And for example, it's a huge system, but you can. It's the logic is so simplicity itself. You've got the malt grain, the malt store at one, through the brewing area, fermentation area, bottling area. It makes a lot of sense. There's a forest of fermenters, which is quite a sight. But the whole
and plus they've got a big barrel storeroom now as well, haven't they?
Yes, and they're constantly expanding. The ideas that they want to be branching out into other areas and things. It's lovely to see a vibrant business like that. But it's also beer as well, A really, really interesting day, that.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was, for us, it was a great experience. We got really looked after by the guys at Thornbridge, and we got to go up and see the original brewery up at Thornbridge Hall.
Yes.
Got to go and meet Flora, the iconic statue that sits on the front of all of their bottles. And to boot, the weather was glorious as well.
It was perfect. It was perfect to be strolling around. I mean, Thornbridge Hall is such an impressive building. Beautiful,
absolutely, yeah.
Beautiful ground.
Obviously, we got the full-on VIP treatment at the brewery as well, and we got to wear the red high vises,
yes.
Properly looked after.
Well,
but yeah, certainly one that sticks in the memory, and I think
they're ours now, aren't they?
I think so. I think they're there for us whenever we want to visit. Yeah, to just go and have a wander around. So yeah, let's a little bit more about the beer then, because like I said, I mean, we did get this as part of the package, and certainly when I saw it in the box, I was like, yeah, that's probably going in the 12 beers of Christmas. Is it changing much in the glass for you, or are you still getting pretty much the same from it?
Well, the effervescence is set, so you get a lot more of the body of the beer. The texture is changing, but I think that's just bringing out more of those raisin notes from the malt. For me, I don't know about you.
I think I'm probably getting more of the sweetness from the cherry coming through now. I mean, it's probably like yours. It's very cold at the moment as well.
Yes.
And I've only got about half of the bottle in my glass at the moment. I don't know whether the other half of the bottle, as it warms over the sort of period of drinking it, whether those flavours will come out even more.
It's a nice big 500ml bottle as well. So
yes, yeah. Ideally should be one for sharing, but maybe not at this time of year.
Yeah.
So Myles, tell us a little bit about the Northeast Sipping Forecast, because basically this 12 Beers of Christmas podcast was inspired by your mammoth efforts of doing 24 beer reviews in one day that you then released over a period of 24 days. And I thought, well, if he can do it, I'm sure I can manage 12 reviews. But you've recently just shuffled up the format a little bit, haven't you? And you've brought in a new lineup for the podcast.
Yes, shuffled the pack a bit. To be honest with you, the driver for it was that we started out with this premise of me, who I've been into beer for years. Rob, who I used to work with, is just starting to get into beer, and him and I were. And he was starting to ask me about, and I was like, let's make this a podcast. Don't know where I got that idea from, but we developed that over a few episodes. But what we found was the two of us to sit down was difficult, and it was becoming all the more awkward for us to, because he's very busy, I'm very busy. But what we've decided to do is expand the people who are involved in the podcast. So there's now the four of us, which means that from one show to the next, be a different group of people on the podcast itself. So you get a different dynamic each week and things. So the conversations will be sort of things, and it just, they're people with different areas of expertise, different levels of knowledge and background, and it just makes for a really nice a variation. But most of all, we all know each other. Rob knows Ross and Chris from other things we've done on the past, and we just sit around the table and chat basically. you know, it makes it very easy just sitting, opening a few beers and a bit of a chat about them. But yeah.
Well, beer is that great social lubricant, isn't it? As
Definitely.
People. So yeah, I mean, I've just finished listening to the episode that you put out on Christmas Day, and yeah, I think the dynamic of having 4 people involved in it has certainly changed what you're doing, and it'll be interesting to see how that evolves over time as well. But what we'll do is I'll put a link to the podcast in the show notes. So if people aren't already listening, and if they're not, then shame on them, because they should already be listening. They'll be able to click through and find where you're at and give you a listen.
Perfect. Excellent. We welcome any feedback.
Yeah, you can't improve without feedback, good or bad. That's the way I've always looked at it.
Definitely.
Right, let's get some final thoughts on this beer before we wrap up then. I'm guessing not too much is going to have changed.
No. Effervescent. I want that to settle. I want to get the beer behind it. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It feels very much appropriate for this time of year. Like sour, it's more of a fruitiness to the beer than it being particularly sour. Interesting, it's a brown ale beneath it all, rather than that works for that fruit as well. So.
Oh, absolutely. It just all balances it out perfectly. I mean, I'm probably the opposite of you in terms of the effervescence that's in it. I'm quite enjoying that because it's tickling my throat and it's soothing it at the same time, which is exactly what I need right now. So, but yeah, I am looking forward to see how it develops, because this isn't one that I'm going to rush. Probably going to be finishing this over the next hour. It'll be interesting to see what it feels like at the end of that hour.
Yeah, it's not one to rush, I would suggest.
No, absolutely not. Well, look, Myles, I really appreciate you giving up some time, mate. All the best for the new year, and I'm sure we'll be enjoying a beer or two in 2018.
Definitely. Yes to that.
Cheers, mate.
Beer.
Adnams Both Barrels. Now, this is a beer that I've had a few times this year, and it's excited me ever since it was released. It's Broadside, but not as you know it. So this is coming straight from the label. It's complex in both aromas and flavours, thanks to 6 years oak aging in barrels once used to mature bourbon. This unique beer has notes of toasted vanilla oaks, cherries and hints of whiskey with fruity rhubarb tang. The palate is rich with a combination of both sweet raisins and bitter cherries. So this was released by Adnams back in February. It comes in at a hefty 10%. But before I get into that, for no scientific reason other than I love the beer and I wanted to do it as kind of a baseline, I've also got the original Broadside here tonight. So this is Adnams bottled Broadside. So this is 6.3%. This is the strong original, and as people will know, this is slightly stronger than the version that you can buy in pubs on cask. So I'm going to give this a go first. Like I say, no scientific reasoning behind it other than I love the beer. I mean, yeah, it's just I've said this many times about Broadside. It's rich, it's fruity, it's almost it's like drinking a fruitcake. It's absolutely gorgeous. So now I've got a little bit of that in my palate. Let's move on to the both barrels. Oh, I mean, on the nose, that's just like you're getting the bourbon there straight away. There are hints of vanilla. You catch just a little bit of the original Broadside. Yeah, it's not overpowering, but it's there. So I'm going to get into this. Cheers. Oh, wow. That has become so smooth in the 10 months or so since it was released. I mean, I'm picking up the bourbon's there. It's a slightly warming finish. It's not overly boozy. It's incredibly balanced. There is the sweetness of cherries in there as well. Maybe a hint of vanilla, a hint of dark chocolate on the finish. But it all comes together absolutely beautifully. Now, I just want to go back over my previous check-ins on this one. So the first time I had it was back on the 10th of February this year. And what I said about it then was it's actually perfect. A subtle hint of the original Broadside covered in sweet cherries with a warming bourbon finish. We then featured it on a show as well. We featured it on episode 26 of Hopinions, which was all about geekery. Again, really enjoyed it. That was quite close. That was back in March. And then the next time I had it was in September. So a full 6 months on. And I said at that time, I thought it had become all about the cherries now. It was sweet with a tart finish. Well, I think it's changed in the bottle again now. And I think the bourbon characteristics are coming through. You do get the sweetness of the cherries, but it is a beautifully tangy finish. And it's got to be said, it's ridiculously drinkable for 10% as well. I'm just going to go back in for one more sip. Oh yeah, that's good. That's a real end of evening beer as well. It's one you'd go to kind of finish your night's drinking on. It's actually lovely. There's not too much more I can add to that. It's an incredible beer. I believe Adnams are bringing this out now as an annual release, so I look forward to seeing it every year and seeing if it changes every year as well. So we've just got the one more beer to go, and I'll look forward to giving that a go, and finishing this year's 12 beers of Christmas tomorrow. So cheers. Beer. 5 Points Old Greg's Barley Wine. Now, I've saved myself a bit of a treat for the last beer this year. This was bottled on the 29th of January 2014, so it's almost 4 years old. Special edition annual beer, 12 months in the making, made with Challenger, Target and EKG hops. And I believe this is from the very first batch that 5 Points brewed of Old Greg's Barley Wine. To add a little bit more nostalgia to this, from what I understand from 5 Points directly, it's also brewed every New Year's Eve, so it seems quite fitting to be doing it this evening. So let's get straight into the beer then. On the nose, there's a lovely kind of boozy, sort of soft fruits in there. Maybe some berries. Let's give it a taste. Oh, there's a challenging flavour in there. There's some real deep, earthy, woody notes. There's a little bit of burnt rubber in there as well, which I know is a great indicator sometimes. It's lightly carbonated, big bitterness, maybe a little bit more bitterness than I'd hoped for in a barley wine. But yeah, some interesting flavours going on now. I'm just going to give that another go because I'm not really sure what I'm getting from that. Maybe a little bit of orange in there. Some real light citrus notes, really dominated by that earthy, woody feel to it though. So I'm going to say off the bat, I'm really grateful to friend of the show, Pete McCary, who I think it was the first time I ever met Pete, sort of 4 years back, was to get a bottle of this from him that he had bought from me. And he never asked me for the money for it, just gave me the beer and said, just have this one on me. And I've been good friends with Pete ever since. So thanks a lot, Pete, for giving us the beer. It's been lovely to be able to save it for so long. And then to be able to give it a go on what is a fairly special occasion. So we are at the end of my 12 beers of Christmas now. I do hope that you've enjoyed these little reviews of beers that I've been doing. I do just want to take a moment to thank everybody who's got involved this year, because it's been a long list of people getting involved through Instagram and through Twitter. But what I'm going to do is I've been going through the hashtag on Twitter, and I think I've got everybody into a list on Twitter. So I do just want to take a moment just to name check everybody individually. So just bear with me here. So we've got Bottle Monkey at bottle_monkey, Central at center_owl, Drunk Guys Book Club at Drunk Guys BC, All About Dat at Daisy_Turnell, The Littlest Homebrew at Littlest Homebrew, Sean as a Service at Sarasi_22, Minister of Food and Drink at the_MOFAD, Beer Geek at Beer Geek Blog, That's a tough one to say after a few beers, I can tell you. Joe at Fatal Glass, Bay Beer Reviews at Bay Beer Reviews, The Owl Lady at The Owl Lady, Russell Boutique at Russ Boutique, 300 Times Long Past at £300 Cyclist, Rach at Look at Brew, Garth C at Garth CC68, Dougie at Geo_Dougie, Sean Smith at Plim Sean, Bubbles at Bubbles Brew, Dave Hewitt at Dave DJ Techno, my co-host, Beer is the Answer at MJPO007, Bruce Ritchie at Ritchie2706, James at Gammon Baron with some of the best pictures that have been shared this year coming from James, Gareth at Barrel Aged Leeds, Dave Nyston at UK Caps Fan, Claypot Xmas Porridge at Clayfish, Joe Hill at Multipex Rant, Will at Longmate, PK at The Great Cubbio, Glenn Johnson at St Glenn, Son of a Gun at Son of a Gun, Michelle Daniels at Ginger Daniels 13, Ryan D at TBAH_Ryan, Guzzler at Lagging_Boat, Jack Uber at Jack Uber, Mark the Gasman at Mark the Gasman, Paul Willies at PS Willies, Optimus Ho 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 at Sparky Right, Grandad Greg at Greg1954, Myles Lambert at Myles Lambert, Catsuel at Katrinas, and Aggie at Final Frog. Thank you to every single one of you for getting involved this year. 12 Beers of Christmas really brings together a community over the festive period, and it's great to see what people are drinking and sharing, and it really wouldn't work without you guys getting involved in that. I'm really sorry if I've missed anybody off the list. What I am going to do is include a link in the show notes to that Twitter list, so you can subscribe to the list and see what those folk are up to, and you can maybe go through the list and follow those that you don't currently already follow. So let's take one final taste of the final beer of the 12 Beers of Christmas, and I'll give you my thoughts before we finish. Still hints of that kind of burnt, earthy woodiness going on. A little bit more of the fruits coming through now. I think my palate just needed to adjust to it a little bit. It's certainly a beer, probably 4 years in the making, and worth waiting those 4 years for. That's to be sure. I'm going to look forward to finishing this off over the rest of the evening. So just before I do finish, what's coming next? What can you expect next from Hopinions? So in a couple of weeks' time, you're going to get the Stone Brewing special that I recorded when I went out to Stone in Berlin, and that's with their master brewer Thomas Terrell. And then we'll be back with the full Hopinions show towards the end of January, where we're hoping to bring some new features, some new views on things, but we'll be keeping the same level of audience engagement, and of course the topical Hopinions discussions going on. I do just want to say thank you to every single person that's engaged in one of our polls this year, everybody that's chatted to us on Twitter, everybody that's come up and chatted to us in real life when we've been out and about, and most of all to every single person that listens and engages with the show. Literally, without you guys, we are nothing, and we are very, very grateful for that. So all that's left for me to do is to wish every single one of you a Happy New Year, all the best for 2018, and I look forward to sharing many more beers with you. Cheers.
It's the most wonderful time for a beer. The bonfire's burning, our heads will be turning on Christmas this year. It's the most wonderful time.